Welcome back, Marvels. Dana and I are starting another episode in a
Laughing.
complete laughing.
Oh my God. Try not to laugh. I just remember being in grad school and a friend, we'd always sat in the back row, my friend and I trying to crack each other up. And a couple times actually getting up to go to the bathroom because I didn't want to be disrespectful to the professor, but I could not stop laughing. Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Dana, we should do, like a members only show where they see what happens behind the scenes and between. Because that's top shelf entertainment.
Exactly.
Or as maybe it's, I say top shelf entertainment because, all the good alcohol, I don't drink, but I know all the good alcohol is top shelf.
Yeah. Well, they do all that in the grocery store. They put all the good stuff at eye level.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think the Gen Zers call it top tier.
Oh, okay.
Top tier.
There you go.
I don't know. I can't keep up. I just feel very old. I'm like very old.
Well, because you have a youngster in your house.
I do have a
constant reminder.
I have a teenager in my home. It's a constant reminder of my inadequacy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So
speaking
Dina,
of inadequacy,
you have the best segues.
I'm really good at
That's
segue.
A good word.
Yeah.
A segue. Like, how do you spell that? That word, the way that word is spelled is interesting, I think.
I always have to rely on spell check. I do. A terrible speller.
I do for that one.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Speller. Always have.
Yeah. If you're listening and you know how to spell segue, just put that in the comments. That would be helpful for Dana.
And if you're a bad speller and you want to admit it,
just put it in
my
the
name
comments.
is Dana and I'm a bad speller. So there you go.
Hi, Dana.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I had to roll. Dana, I've been like, I want to talk about this because I've been it's been irritating to me. So it's I hear the word self-efficacy interchange with self-esteem.
Yeah. Not
a
the same
lot.
Thing. Yeah.
They're not the same thing. And I want to put the record straight. That's what I really want to do.
Preach it.
Preach. So, and I think there's an important difference. And there's an important difference because I think it relates directly to well-being. So this is why, I really want to talk about this. I see self-esteem as who I am, who I think I am, the thoughts of who I am. Versus self-efficacy, what I can do for myself.
That's a good way to put it.
So to do, right? And that self-efficacy, the ability for you to know that you can do things reliably for yourself. You have, you're empowered with choice and control. This is a very critical piece of how we live in this world. Right. Yeah. And so efficacy for me is just so important. And I think about this when I'm supporting others, which is how effective do you think you are in your own life? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Versus who do you think you are? Do you think you're good? Do you think you're great? Yeah. Do you think I think and they're so disconnected that every time someone uses them interchangeably, I don't know. My hackles raise.
Well, I think that the word self-esteem is misused a lot too. I mean, if you think about just the origins of the word self, like you mentioned, it's about me. Esteem, I think, do you hold your colleagues in high esteem? So esteem is, what is your level of holding yourself praising you, or you have esteem for somebody? We hear a lot of people talk about self-esteem, like, oh, my self-esteem is no good. I'm like, well, that right there, using those words is kind of an oxymoron, because esteem would be you hold yourself in esteem. So you have a negative view of yourself. Oh, I need more self-esteem. Or they interchange it with confidence, right? Yeah. I'm like, oh God, confidence is another loaded one, because by whose measure and by whose definition, what is confidence, right? But I like what you're talking about, like who I am versus what I do. So there's an identity, going back to an earlier podcast, there's this identity piece, who I am, versus, where I'm moving out in the world, things that I do. We've talked a little bit on the show about congruence, like does the inside match the outside? And you could see that, like who I am as a person, do my actions, do my ways of being out in the world and things I do they match the inside, right? That we deal with incongruence all the time. A lot of therapy is to get those two worlds matching up again. But that self-esteem, I think, is almost sort of become kind of a toxic word. I see it used on like morning shows, like, oh, ways to bolster your self-esteem. I'm like, it's a little better, there's more to it than wearing the right tennis shoes, I can guarantee you, right?
Yeah.
It's really about, do you berate yourself? Is your basic sense of self built on fallacies or masking or negativity or what someone else told you is wrong with you, right? A sort of punishing, downtrodden sense of self, versus self-esteem. And then that self-efficacy, like you said, it is a different, it's an empowering kind of thing. The word efficacy, you're effective, right? Versus being ineffective. You wouldn't have I guess you could have self-ineffectiveness, but that might just be not having effectiveness. How much can you, how much are you in the driver's seat? And I say that all the time, and it sounds so simple, but it really isn't. People don't realize how much they're kind of rolling in their life by not doing that, right? I was using this example, I think, with one of my clients last week about the label and the identity of being disabled, right? And so there's so much pressure to not be. And I can remember when I first started teaching where I am now, that these chairs that we make our students sit on are so awful. They're like all plastic. They're so uncomfortable. And then in every room, there's like the identified like disability chair, but it really is like the chair for someone who can't stand killing themselves on these hard plastic chairs that we have. And they're like a nice task chair. There's a lot of ways you can adjust it. It's got pads on the back. And so I now, when I go into a meeting or something like that in a room, the first thing I do is scope out, where's the blue chair? And I grab it for myself. But there was this period where I'm like, oh, is this okay? Are people going to think I'm worthy of meeting my needs with this chair? What if someone else needs it more than I do? Am I somehow identifying myself as having like issues by taking that chair? It sounds like such an innocuous example, but there was so much wrapped up in that for me. Like, what are other people thinking? Is this okay to do? Do I really need this? And so I spent years not listening to my body and just saying, oh no, I want to be like everybody else. And of course I'm not going to get that chair. And then I, come home and limp around the house for 3 days because I hurt myself. That's not self-efficacy. And that is probably not even decent self-esteem or sense of self, because I'm not meeting my own needs. And I'm, to such a degree, I'm not even aware of what my needs are.
Yeah.
When I first got into therapy, I can remember my therapist asking me, what do you want? And I'm like, what do you mean? It was such a foreign question. I'm like, no, what do you want? Oh, I really have no idea. Because it was all built on, what other people put in you. And it took a really long time to figure that out. And that's what we mean more by, to me, that's what really self-esteem is, but it's like sense of self, right?
Yeah, self-concept, sense of self, right? And that, self-esteem or confidence is not built on lies, right?
Right.
And so, like we really know when we can do things for ourselves or when we've worked really hard to accomplish or achieve something.
And we know when it's fake.
We know when it's fake. We know when the smoke's being blown up.
Yeah.
Like we understand this on a very authentic, genuine level. And so I really feel like if we were to focus on efficacy first, right? Doing for myself, then I really believe like the esteem and the confidence will come with that. But we really need to act. And I think that's why, when someone's like you don't just change someone's beliefs about themselves and now they have good self-esteem. Because it's always based on the truth of action. And so
that's right.
That's why I think my hackles get raised, because it's like, well, it's not so easy to write a goal to say so-and-so will improve their self-esteem by, I don't know, rephrasing 3 negative self-comments about,
oh God.
in 3 to 4 opportunities or whatever. Like that's just never that's really not going to do anything for that person.
Right.
Instead, like how do we change the idea of supports? like
Yeah.
necessary supports and accommodations.
That's right.
And then how do we empower someone with their own skills and actions
Yeah.
within the environments that they choose to be in? And if,
Hmm.
I really believe we should choose to be in the environments that serve us. But if we can't be in environments that serve us, do we have to be in that environment? For how long do we have to be in that environment? And, what
Hmm.
services or supports do we need in order to not come back home and be out for 2 weeks?
Yeah, and
Um,
the
you
idea of
know,
sort of denial of self, I think, gets
yeah,
instilled from the very beginning. This is the kid
yeah,
that falls down, scrapes their knee, and instead of attending to it, the parent says, "You're okay." Well, first of all, who
I
are you to
am.
tell me how I feel?
Yeah,
You're okay.
yeah.
Um, that may be more about your own anxiety. What was popping in my head as you were giving those further explanations is one of these body workshops that I used to go to, and we did a lot of art therapy, and we did a lot of weird things. So bear with me; it was weird, but it was cool. So this one day we all had to wear blindfolds, so we didn't know what was going to be put down in front of us. And they ended up putting like this kind of paper mache blob in front of us. Now I know it was a sensory thing. I sort of get it. And then they say, okay, so feel what's in front of you. And everybody else in the room except for me was getting into it and squishing it and made stuff. And we couldn't see what each other was doing. So the idea was to have the experience just for you. Like, don't be worrying about, because you couldn't see them, right? Plus, you didn't know
Mhm.
there was some trust stuff because you didn't know what was. I touched it and I just freaked out. And I sat there the whole time just frozen. And the all of what was going through my head that entire time was, is this okay? I'm not doing anything. Is this okay? I'm going to get in trouble. I'm sure my therapist is looking at me right now, not touching that. And she's going to talk to me about it later and say, you didn't do it right. And so it was this whole struggle internally that wasn't really me. It was more of all these messages that I'd gotten about conforming and doing what you're supposed to do. And
Mhm.
that was powerful enough. But the most powerful part is when we were sharing as group afterwards. First of all, look around the room and see what other people did. And then when I did see I was the only one that didn't do it, I was even more mortified. But I started to share about my experience, what that was. So many people were like, oh my God, I totally get it. I do that as well. I didn't really want to do this, but I caved in and I did, all of the permutations from I didn't want to do it either, but I did it, to I thought this is the greatest thing ever, but I can understand why you wouldn't do it. And then other people saying, I wouldn't think you're in trouble for sticking to your guns and doing what was right for you. And that was one of the first times I really felt like as an adult, oh, I really did internally what felt right, and I was terrified the whole time until I got some reassurance from other people, like, "It's okay for you to," because that's not how I was raised,
Mm,
you
mm.
just did things you were supposed to do, it wasn't what you wanna do.
Yeah.
And so something that subtle brought so much learning for me, it shifted so many things, and people don't realize the degree to which they are touching gross stuff even when they don't want to use that metaphor. And it's okay to not
Yeah.
do it. But you also have to take some time to go, is this really me, or is it something I've been taught and told? And that's some heavy lifting to figure those things out.
Yeah, that's like we did that, we did an episode on the S word, should,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? This kind
yep.
of like shoulding all over yourself, right?
Right. That's right. Yep.
And that, efficacy is the ability to know yourself and take care of yourself.
Yes.
And I don't want the audience to misconstrue that I'm saying that you follow all your hedonistic pleasures. That's
Right,
not
right.
what I'm saying, actually. You know what I'm saying? Whoa, that
Yeah.
went south quick.
Because if that
That
were
was
true, I
definitely
would
south.
want everybody to get off the road when I'm driving to work, and I'm going to drive anywhere I want. Yeah, of course not.
Right. Like,
Yeah,
it's not, of course, that's not what we're talking about. What we're
yeah.
talking about is, um, a sense of a balance and well-being that you
Mhm.
understand for yourself, and being
Yeah.
able to advocate, and that's doing
That's right. Yeah, oh,
in
yeah.
your service. And how
Yep.
often, I mean, I was raised very similarly where,
Mhm.
I culturally, what do I know as a kid? I obviously don't know as a kid. And,
Mhm.
I must obey
Yeah.
the authoritative, parentals, at all costs because I don't know any better. And it really wasn't until, I grew up and I did my own therapy, and I had this similar experience, Dana, where my therapist said, well, what is it that you want? And I was like, what? What are you talking
That's
about?
why I'm here. I need you to tell me.
Tell me what I want. I don't know. Right. And I didn't know, how to formulate that for myself. And then, this came to me as a mom when my daughter, she fell and split her right above, her eyebrow.
Oh yeah, that's
plastic surgeons say like that's their bread and butter, like fixing this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we went to the ER and she was so freaked out that they had to strap her to a board in order, because it was such a sensitive, and they had to strap her head. And I started to cry. She was crying and I was crying. And the nurse looked at me and said, Mom, you cannot cry at this moment. And I looked at her and I was like,
yes,
bleep you, because this is authentically what's happening. It's scary. And I'm not about to say that this isn't scary for me. Like, what a disjointed, disconnected experience to have as a little child. Like, I think about it now and I'm like, I get emotional.
Because they didn't want to take the time it would have taken.
Correct.
For everybody to calm down and to numb it slowly and do it in a way that she wasn't traumatized.
Traumatizing. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to be complicit in this. And I remember how challenging that was, because I was, tasked with also holding her head. That's scary when you're 6 or 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
my dog fell off a chair once and I still remember it. So
like, what the heck? Anyway, so this idea though of like efficacy, like don't get caught up too much on that self-esteem, because that comes because of your lived experiences. And maybe you might need help normalizing those or understanding your experiences.
Yeah. And then they come automatically. Like now, if I were to touch something slimy in an exercise like that, I'd be like, oh no. And I'd be fine with it because I know that about myself now, which I didn't.
That's right. That's right. And it's okay. There's nothing life-threatening about that. There's nothing mandatory about that. There's nothing illegal, amoral.
Right.
There's nothing about it, and so part of that. So I don't know. Thanks, Dana, thank you, Marvels, for giving me a platform.
For both of us to process our traumatic memories.
For venting and traumatic.
For you and your daughter, the stitches, and me with the slimy stuff that they wanted me to touch. Yeah. Oh, God.
Oh, my gosh. Anyway. All right, Marvels. Thanks for being here. Actions removed out. And I'll leave it at that.
That's a good one.
Actions removed out. Yeah.
Let's just all think about that as we go off the air.
In contemplation.
Yes. Now I feel like we're on NPR and we're talking. So now we're going to end the episode laughing, just the way we started it.
What was that? Dana, what was that SNL skit? It was like Molly Shannon.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, welcome
the sweaty balls.
Was it the sweaty balls or was it? Well, I thought they had a radio show.
They did. Yeah. So they had the guy on who was like talking about these Christmas delights that he makes there to eat, and then but they talk like that. Oh, those look really good. Can I touch your balls? Oh, that was so funny. Yeah. If you haven't seen that, YouTube sweaty balls on SNL and you'll die laughing.
Yeah. Molly Shannon is so good in that, like so good. Maybe we dated ourselves. Not sure if we dated ourselves, but maybe Dana and I will just do an episode close up. Hey, Dana. Like, well, maybe we'll just...
We talk like that the whole time. Isn't that how therapists are supposed to talk?
Yes.
Can you tell me about your mother? It's kind of crazy. I hope everybody's laughing as we're doing this. So, Marvels, have a wonderful week.
And as Dana says, be good to you. Okay. Bye. Bye, Marvels.